After a long break, we are finally back. This is #4Better4Worse Season 2 with me, Fred Makori-san of Nyakundi. In this season, we are sprucing up things a little bit. We're adding things here and there to continue to empower, enrich, and impact your marriages so that they continue to thrive to the glory of God. And before you continue, if this is your first time joining us, please hit the subscription button and get 5 of your friends to also subscribe. There's a lot we've lined up for you in this episode and the whole season. And on this premiere episode, we will be looking at a topic that most people will shy from discussing. A topic that is not easy to deal with. What are we looking at? We're looking at how to deal with grief. Well, grief comes in so many forms, but what we are focusing on is grief that is brought about when you lose a loved one. Does it draw you apart? Does it bring you together? How do you cope in that time? And how even do you support your spouse through that period and your entire family as well? But before we meet a panel that is going to be discussing from their own life experiences, let us meet our favorite couple, Lexie and William. And also, we've introduced a couple of their friends. It is going to be amazing. Here they are next.
I choose to love you. I choose to cherish. Don't you forget my love is for better, for worse.
That was a beautiful ceremony, William. I think it was a good funeral we did. Probably again. Probably for your loss, bro.
It's okay.
Yeah, you don't worry about anything. All the finances have been sorted. In fact, I disbanded the committee. And I know a guy, so don't worry, next week tafunika grave yake vizuri. Okay. Hey man, pole again, bro. Pole for your loss.
It's okay.
You're good? Uko poa lakini?
Yeah, uko sawa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I was thinking next week I'm hosting the boys at my place. League imeanza, so come watch a game, nyama choma kidogo, some drinks. Will you be able to come through?
Yeah, I'll try.
Good stuff, my guy. Uko sawa, you'll be okay, bro. Let me check up on the ladies, huh? Tuko pamoja, bro. Don't think too much about it, bro. Focus on. You're good.
can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore.
You have to. You can't break down on me.
I don't have the energy.
We'll figure it out.
On the panel this week, Roseline Njogu, a lawyer and academic, married to Robert, and they have 3 daughters. William Gatheca, a businessman, married to Eva, and they have 2 sons. Harriet Jahenda, medical practitioner, a widow, and a mother to 1 daughter. So with that introduction, we are going to get right into it. Gatheca, would you give us a brief recount of how you dealt with a loss that you will remember?
Thank you so much, Makori. My loss was the loss of our daughter, second-born daughter. And facing grief of a child is one of the most difficult things that you'll ever go through. We had everything planned, get married, get firstborn son and secondborn girl, and things were working out, yeah. So, everything was good, and we got a daughter. But 4 months down the line, she passed on. So, yeah, it was one of those things that you hear elsewhere, but now it is home. And it was difficult to, for us as parents. You would imagine, as parents, you imagine it's your children that should maybe be burying you, maybe.
And Harriet, maybe if you could go next.
Thank you for this opportunity. Mine is loss of a spouse, which was very sudden, like just leaving the house, then the next phone call that comes through, he's dead. As Gatheca says, grief is hard. I don't think there's anything that prepares you to losing a loved one. It's very hard. Even if you saw it coming, maybe they say like somebody was sick and he was degrading slowly, you're never prepared for that. So yeah, he died. We were just 2 years into marriage, starting a family. Our daughter was 1. The future was bright, looking forward to so many things. Then it just happened. Yes.
Rosa, any experience that you could recount?
I think my experience is somewhat a little bit different because my loss was of an unborn child.
Yeah.
We had a miscarriage. We lost our first child through a miscarriage. I was about 10 weeks pregnant and had no indication that anything was wrong. And it was my first pregnancy, so you are completely green. You don't know what's right. First of all, pregnancy, everything just feels wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody just feels wrong.
Yes.
But you don't know what's a wrong and what's an okay wrong. So about 10 weeks in, my husband and I go for a scan. We'd gone for at 6 weeks, and we'd seen sort of, they call it gestational pole, and so the baby was doing fine at 6 weeks. Then we went in at 10 weeks, and the doctor said, again, being very new, we did not know what.
You know what
we don't know what
mean?
What is a good and
what is a bad Yeah.
And then he said, Rosa, why don't you just pull back your dress up
a
and
bit
just come
more.
to this side, and
Yes.
then we come in and speak. And then he explains to us that we should have been seeing this, we should have seen a heartbeat, we should have seen this, and that is
Nothing.
not there. That you have lost the baby.
Okay.
It's a difficult kind of loss because I can't tell you I have lost so and so called this or the other. We haven't seen them, we haven't touched, we haven't this person is probably real only to me.
Yeah.
Because this person is growing inside me and making me throw up and whatnot. And so it's a very sort of abstract and yet very, very dark and almost very solitary loss. Yeah.
All right. And at that point, maybe if we start with you, what is it that you craved the most when you're dealing with that loss, when you're going through that grief?
So many things, Fred, but probably the one that would stand out the most is, you see how I'm explaining that it's sort of an abstract loss? It's you don't have the language for it. You don't have the vocabulary to say, I am feeling this deep loss because of, I haven't lived with this house. We don't have plans. I haven't seen and held and nursed this child. But it's such a deep loss that you can't explain because no one else, first of all, can feel it apart from your husband probably, and he feels it differently. So I think what I crave the most is just the language to express myself. And for a long time, I did not know what to say. I didn't have the vocabulary to put into words my grief, to verbalize my grief.
All right.
And so I found that I sort of used other people's language, and it wasn't always helpful because, you know, people would, very well-meaning people will say things like, at least it wasn't a real child.
What?
Or it's okay, God will bless
Yeah,
you with
another one.
But I want this one. Like if I die today, no one is going to tell my mother. You have
At least you have others.
Like, no one will tell you this is a distinct, unique life that I wanted. So just finding the language, both for myself, but also for the people around me to know what to say is probably one of the things that
you craved at that point. Gatheca.
I actually relate to what Rosa is saying, because for me, my experience was, as she's saying, maybe the mother's side and the father's side is a bit different. For us, we had already gotten our daughter. We have everything ready. The court is there. She had even not moved into the court. She was in this Moses basket. And we were actually ready now to transfer her to her own court and everything. So suddenly the child is not normal, because for us what happened was that she was not even sick. It's a Sunday afternoon and she's gone to take a nap, and was it 30 or 40 minutes later, the mom goes to check on her and she's not there. I mean, she's not responding. And I'm there, we rush to hospital, and on arrival, we are told that the child, we've lost the child, she's not there. Now, for me, I was craving peace. That, especially for my wife, because at some point we were wondering, did it even happen? Did we even have a child? Is this a dream? This was the closest family member I've ever lost. So everything looked like it was in plan. And then now I don't know what to, as a man, I also need to be strong for my wife. So you're there and I don't know what to say. And as Rosa is saying, what I relate with her is people coming to tell us, at least it was not your firstborn. So at least it shows you're able to get, you're a young couple, you'll get, but you see, the thing is, at that point, even as they're saying that, they're innocent. That's what I came to understand. That it's not like they are just, they're coming from a point of ignorance, or from where they sit, that's what they're saying. But the way I'm perceiving it is different. I'm like, you didn't know Wache, you didn't know, you didn't know this child, you didn't know this girl. So I think for me it was, I needed to get peace, and all those, the people who will come and encourage us, and we'll hear a lot of that, you'll get this, you'll get, and for us, this is, there's no one who will replace this child. Even if we get another one, because eventually we got another one, a boy, and we could not say that this one now has come to, now we're okay. It's like it's something broken, now you get another one, a cup, and you continue. I mean, it's not like that. This is a life. She had her own future. We had plans even for her and so on. So I think for me it was that peace that I was craving, that we'll get to a point that I'll be able to get over it. And I thank God because of friends who came around, and people will come and tell us that they've gone through actually the same. And somehow, I mean, people are silent about it. People never know, like the miscarriages, at least for us, maybe because a child had come and we had celebrated several, gone to several occasions with our daughter. But people will come and tell us they had several miscarriages, they lost their child, and you'll never know. So people suffer in silence. So that's maybe another level of now trying to find out where do we, from here, where next, yeah.
All right, Harriet, for your case, what is it that you need at that point when you're dealing with that loss?
Losing a loved one is bad. It's ugly. Even from the Bible, when Jesus went at Lazarus' grave, he cried. He knew he was going to raise him anyway in 2 minutes or 3 minutes time. It is that bad. So just trying to sugarcoat it as well, he's in a good place. I'm like, what do you mean? Was this place bad for him? Were we bad for him? Good things, but not at the right time. Maybe later when maybe life, you start seeing positive things in life again. But at that point, I think I was just craving to just hear like people just telling me the real things. Like, you know what, we are sorry, it is bad, but don't tell me it is well. That one didn't go well with me. Also, I think at that time, mine was different. Mine was dramatic. I come from Western, and the funerals are dramatic. And especially losing a man, like a husband, wow. And the fact that I'm young, so I was being told those stories are, you're young, you'll get married again. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to replace this husband. So for you, I've not lost. It is just like, okay, moving forward, get another one and move. Yeah, you see, very, very, very bad, You see, maybe they think they're encouraging you, but okay, I'm young, yes. But this is the man I loved, he's dead. I can't replace him. And also, at that point, as I said, mine was very dramatic. And I felt like I wasn't being heard. You see, I'm young. I was 29 then. I think that was really hard. It really complicated my grief. Like, later on when I connected with a widow from church, I felt so understood. When somebody tells you, oh, don't cry. I'm like, but I need to be given that time to let this sink. This is hard. It's sudden. This is the closest person I've ever lost. So we're being told, oh, don't cry too much. Like, so I should just keep things in so that look cool, like, oh, he's dead, we're playing cool. No, I think just being allowed to let it, not just cry and just grieve my own way. Also, there's no formula to grieve. Yes. Nobody should tell you, oh, you're not supposed to do that. No, this is very personal. Just being allowed to do things my way and just find that peace the best way I can. That is what I craved for in the initial stages.
All right, Rosa, the whole issue, there's this notion that since you're married, your husband and wife, if you lose a child, then you draw from each other and it's easier to deal with that grief. Is that true?
Maybe I would say yes and no. I can only speak from my experience.
Yes.
But there was a sense in which I leaned on Robert very heavily. He probably leaned on me. I can't remember. If he did, I probably was doing all the leaning. Yeah. And that helped. Like, there's a lot of things that he I could see him crying. I could see him dealing with his grief. In fact, when we got the news first, I was hit very hard. He was hit very hard. But he said, no, let's just pray that the Lord will resurrect this child.
Wow.
Which I could not do. Like, I was like,
you pray.
I'm not going to have another scan where I look and see an empty womb. I can't. There are many motions that we went through together. So after the miscarriage, I had to go and have a procedure they call a DNC, where they sort of evacuate your uterus. Yeah. It is as horrific as it sounds. And having him walk with me sit with me, wait for them to, take me to the theater. And then, we took time off work, of course, and we would drive up to Brackenhurst and take long drives and listen to hymns. And so having somebody who felt the loss that keenly with me was very helpful, which I assume is very different for Harriet because she had lost the person
you
do these things with. So that was helpful. And he was very supportive, but I was also conscious of the fact that he has also lost a child.
Yeah.
Our losses are probably appearing different to the two of us because one of the things that was very horrific about it is the day I had been told there is no more baby, I went home and I was still puking. I still had morning sick. I was like,
why?
What manner of wickedness is this? Like, why? My body hasn't caught up to it.
To the fact,
the hormones are still, in my body. Anyway, so having that person to walk through the journey, to walk the journey with you, and someone who understands, someone who you don't have to explain things to, who just gets it, was very helpful. But there are also parts of that grief that were very solitary even from him. Like there were bits that I was the only one who struggled with. Maybe he's a better Christian, I don't know. Maybe he has deeper, like I spent weeks, months Googling things like, where do miscarried babies go?
Whoa.
At what point do they go to heaven? If heaven is really based on our knowledge of Jesus, these babies have had no opportunity to have known the Lord.
Or heard of.
Where is the verse that tells me for sure that they are in heaven? And I went. It's a dark hole. And you just go into it.
Yeah.
And there isn't, sometimes because that stuff is happening in your head, in your mind, in the recesses of your heart, even this person can't come with you. So there are bits there that I walked alone. There are a lot of bits that I was supported because I had him, and we did this. And then it was just stupid things like, after I'd had my DNC at Nairobi Hospital, I went into those dark rabbit
hole
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I was like, where do they take the products of conception, as they call them, after miscarriage? And somebody casually mentioned to me they incinerate them, which makes sense, I guess. The same way when they take out tumors, I assume they incinerate them and whatnot. And for the longest time, if I drove by Nairobi Hospital and I saw smoke going up, I would
lose
traumatized. It was awful. I would be re-traumatized. I would just be. So having somebody like Robert, who he would literally take a different route, like so that we don't have to
go through Nairobi.
We would
you either go to Langata Road and back.
to avoid Nairobi Hospital. And so in a sense,
was easy.
In a sense, it helped to have.
All right.
I can't imagine going through that kind of grief alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And for Gatheca, just to ask, is it easy to reach out for help? Like, for instance, you need to just talk it out. You need somebody to just hug or just sit and cuddle. Is it easier, especially for a man, when you're going through that grief, to reach out? Because really, you're looked up to as somebody who needs to offer that support. Like Rosa said, she learned a lot on Robert. And for you, how is it now to reach out for help?
Well, yeah, it is true. As a man, you are the one who's expected, even the society and you yourself, Now, my wife was mostly affected because, her body, as Rosa is saying, had adjusted to everything. She has a baby. Now, all this, she was expressing, and now what happens? Because the production is still there, and so she had probably more gone through it. She had maybe more. She was grieving differently than I was, and I think everyone was grieving in their own way. And what I came to realize is that even as individuals, as people, we do deal with grief differently. And for her, she would, she would cry, and I think I cried, yes, but I think mostly towards the burial, But thereafter, I was like, you know what, we have to move forward. We have to, and this "it is well" thing and all that was not adding up. And being also in the church, as an elder in the church, now I'm expected also to be encouraging other people. So I get to this point that I need to know to be strong, because I don't even know all these things I've been telling people. All the verses I know, they don't make sense anymore. Now I needed to be strong for her. Now, and for that, again, I was trying to not to show signs of weakness or like this grief is taking a toll on me, but it was, yeah. So at some point, I think it's my mother, one of the moms. They told us there's someone you need to talk to, a counselor, and so on. So they organized for us, and I think I postponed it several times. And my wife was more than willing, like, let's go. And I'm wondering, to do what? Atatusaidia, like, Washeki is gone. Now we need to just get ourselves together and just face the future. This is it. It won't, But now, I think with time, I think after struggling with that idea of counseling, I agreed and we went, and so we got some help. And mostly it was us talking. I was not expecting that. I thought we'll sit somewhere and then they tell us, now, step number 1, this is what you need to do. Go get rid of all those things that remind you of this baby.
Go burn them.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. But it was more of us saying things, and I'm finding myself, I'm talking and I'm like, what am I saying, But it was good because it will get that pain out, and that's when I think actually realized I was also affected emotionally, and it really had taken a toll on me. And even I think soon after that I decided to go and do a program I had postponed for some time, the Man Enough program, and really it was like a distraction. Yeah, getting out. I need to do something that will get my mind off this, and so. But to some extent, I would say yes and no. In terms of it is easier because we are the two of us. Maybe one, because I would be there for her when she's low. We'll talk. Again, at some point, my wife Eva is like, her grieving is like she wants to see photos. She wants to go.
And you're like,
I put everything in a box. All these things, the cards, the baby girls, those ones you get in hospital, and put everything in a box and we put it somewhere. And she will be like, because she couldn't reach where it was. I'm telling her, let's open during the anniversary. That way it will make sense. But that was for me because I don't want to see them because it takes me back, yeah. But I think with time and with the counseling, it really helped because I got to know that you need to talk about it. You don't just bottle it up. Talk about it. See those photos. She will look at videos. Even I think 7 years down the line, I think this year is when we were able to watch videos together of that she had recorded of the baby and so on. I will see her watching and I will give myself shuglis and because I don't want to go back there. Yeah, but it will help because we are the two of us trying to go through this. But again, now because of those things that will trigger the emotions, they will take me back. Yeah, so, but I think it's better when you're the two of you and you're working together, because at times it was also maybe a source of conflict to some extent, because you're wondering, everyone, maybe we're wondering, what if we went there, sooner? What if, because I was in church personally, she was at home, and I came back and she had just put the baby to sleep, she had fed, and when I came back home, I think I played with the firstborn, Ethan, who was about 5 years then. And then the mom went to look at, to check on the child, and she went there and she was screaming, "No, come, just come." And I'm like, "What's happening?" So I go there, anyway. Now, on the other side, I was like, looking back, I'm seeing as if maybe I would have, what if I didn't go probably to church? I would probably not have put the baby to sleep. I would have helped the child. And her, she's like, and this story of people coming and telling you stories. So there's this person who came and told my wife. I asked my wife, so the child was 4 months. Okay. And I've never seen you back to church. What happened? Maybe it's at times God, when we pray that God may remove anything that will prevent you, beholding you from going to church. And I'm like, no, who told you? And she was told somewhere. So I'm coming home. She's telling me this lady who had come, and this lady is like trying to encourage her. But now me, I'm wondering. I'm telling her, no, you would, and now she's like, maybe what if it is true? Maybe we would have, and all that. So I had to be there to tell her, no, it doesn't. I know God's timing. I know God has a plan for all of us. And I know that there's nothing we can do to change God's plan.
So Harriet, the whole issue of now talking it out and sharing, now for you, you said you met this lady from church who now you connected and they helped you. How significant was that in your space?
That was very significant. Very, I felt understood. Like, at least, when you say things, like for me, she just went through the same things I went through. You lose a spouse, issues with in-laws, with money, and what is it with Wache. So, finally, when you tell somebody this story, people who've not gone through this, it feels like, hey, what? That's too much. I know, like, wow, that is a lot. Because sometimes you want to just keep it to yourself because you don't want people to look at you weirdly, like, really? So finally, just meeting this lady, and she tells me her story, how things were. She was like, I wish I was there with you. I would have guided you on how to go about this. It was such a good time. Sadly, she passed on later. Yeah, but yeah, I really thank her for because I got the number from Pastor Mangi from church, called her. She came almost immediately. Imagine, she just came in my house, cried together, we prayed, and we just connected. And wow, she isn't my journey. Yeah, so I thank God. Like, it's just good to connect. There's so many groups out here of people who are grieving, lost spouses, lost children. Somewhere you get into that group and you see these experiences, you realize you're not alone. Because this journey of grief, it's a very lonely journey. It's like you're walking through a dark path, and you're alone. It's dark. You don't even know how long you're going to walk through this path. It is quite difficult. So it's just good to connect, reach out. There's so many people who are even willing to work with you. Just reach out. They're there. And I thank God for meeting her. Yes.
All right. And I know communication is one of the things that becomes casualty whenever people are dealing with loss. In your case, Rosa, how did you encourage intimacy, especially when you're going through that loss period?
Someone who's very dear to me told me very recently that it seems that event of 2011 has changed me to date. There are parts of me that appear to have been altered by that event. And maybe there's a part of me, truthfully, that either died or just did not in the fight for survival did not make it. Like, needed to be sacrificed so that I could come out on the other side. I don't even know that. I mean, we talked a lot.
Okay.
Right? We talked a lot. We, as I said, we took time out of work. We had these long drives where we just wept. We talked. I would do my Googling late into the night about where babies are and things like that. And I would sometimes wake him to talk about it. I don't think he was very thrilled about it. He just wanted to sleep generally.
He's like, come on.
To lale too. It's just with the Lord. These babies with the Lord. But truthfully, there are, as Harriet says, there is, at some point you tell your story 2-3 times, it horrifies people. You can see the trauma on their faces. You're like, okay, maybe I don't see. Like maybe I don't see. Like maybe I just I keep it to myself until somebody gives you permission to share. And often it was other people who had miscarriages in my case who came out and said, oh, this happened. And then they would tell me their horrific stories. A lot of them much more horrific than mine. And then you'd be like, and you're still standing. You look at them, they're still standing. And when those people tell you eventually it will be okay, you can believe because they have the marks.
They've experienced,
So many things, I feel might have at least become casualty, at least in that season. But slowly, I think we came out of it. I wish I had the maturity to have gone to therapy. I did not.
Okay.
I'm a firm believer in therapy now. I go.
But then no.
But then there was such little information for me about this, and I think if I had gone, my journey to getting better would have been just fast tracked. Because as Gatheca says, you go there and then you unburden yourself, right? You unburden yourself. You say the things. And your therapy sort of guides conversations, and then you feel better. These things are not in your mind, in your head. You're not wondering, why aren't you grieving as much as I am?
Exactly.
You're not looking at the person and saying, why are you not crying? Why are you done crying?
Yeah.
Because at some point you're like, why is he better?
Where have you healed?
Why have you healed? Which I asked. Was this not important? And probably these are things I should have been speaking through the therapist. So anyway, so a lot of things I think
felt casualty and
to that grief.
Yes.
And it felt like the point was just to come up for air at some point, as Harriet says, to just make it through the dark alley and just come out on the other side with your life.
All right.
Yeah.
Harriet, I'm interested to know, now that you've dealt with it and you're here and you've lived to tell the tale, what are some of the things that hindsight, your husband would have done to prepare you for when he's not here? Is there anything that you look back and say that if he had maybe written a will or done this or instructed me this way, that would have prepared me a bit for the life without him?
Yeah, I can see a few. Like what you just mentioned, a will. Very important. At whatever stage. The way you say wills are for old people, well, no. It will save you a lot of issues. Like for me, if we had a will, I think 90% of the stuff I had to go through would have been solved by that. Very important. And you don't have to have those big assets to have a will. No, just you update it as you move on. Because it's very important. It will save whoever is left behind a lot. Other than a will, I can say just putting finances in order. The way you get married, you don't even go change at your workplace, like who's your next of kin, such things. And let me tell you, that was my experience. You die and then you realize, wow. So this was just a husband on paper, and also just not just having a good social system. You have friends. Like for us, I can say our friends came through for us big time. Other than family, big time. Like they're even the first people I called when I got that phone call. I didn't even think of calling my mom or dad. And they came through, and all through the stages of funeral and the dramas that came with it, they were there. So just having a good support system, people who are very reliable, they will stand in. For me, I can say my husband's friends stood there for him. They did what he would have done for me and for our child. You see, also just one of the things that really hits hard when you lose a spouse is finances. And it really makes grieving difficult because you see, you're dead, financial dynamics change, you need to maybe scale down a few things, but it's really a struggle. So maybe, support your spouse in terms of maybe they should have a job or just a stream of income because things change. You find that when you die, that's when you realize, wow, I was just a wife, there's a family. Then you're told, oh, like for me, people said, you have a job, you can take care of your child. Somebody even went to an extent of saying, you see, even if he was not working, I would still have supported this family, you see. As in, that is how the extent people can go. Like money is very sensitive, especially when a man dies. And maybe for me, the fact that we're also young, all those things mixed up. Just having support, like let your spouse be financially stable or at least having a job or a business somewhere they can support themselves, because you die and I don't know what they do on the other side. I don't know if they say these things, but things change. And that is how, like, if only maybe you had maybe an insurance, life insurance, such things, or you had your things in place, like if it is the things you have, title deeds, maybe in both your names, because if it is in your name only, I think Rosa will touch on that, it is subject to being subdivided. Somebody just needs to come and say, he used to support me. He used to, actually, I came to learn we were many dependents. Yes. Another independent was our child. Wow, we were very, you see, such things, just ensuring your things are in order, because you work so hard, you die, then your things are just taken by people and you leave your children suffering. It is so sad. Yeah, just putting your things in order, like for us, just putting your things in order. Like I think for us, the things that we got before, we started investing before marriage. Okay, in our dating, we did a few things together. Those are the things that were subject to those dramas. But whatever we did after, at least those ones we had protected. And nothing, nobody could come up with that. So just putting your things in order, investing with, even telling your spouse where you've invested. You know, there's so many things that are stuck somewhere. People can't trace them and people are suffering because finances are hard. It would be nice, like, let your people just deal with you gone. Don't let them go through, oh, its finances are hard. Like, you see, life is getting expensive every day. Like for me, when my husband died, my daughter was 1. Sai, she's in school. School is expensive, you see. Yeah, and you see, I have to deal with that, with him not being here. So, yeah, just put things in order. At least secure your things, because once you're gone, my friend, and the people who will stress your spouse are the people closest to you, not that person who can, no. And yeah, it is quite difficult. And for me, thank God, because at least I was in a good place. I didn't have to really go through that trauma of finances and everything. I thank God I have a job, I can take care of my child. But not many people are in that place. Some people, when you lose a spouse and wow, things change, your world goes upside down, you struggle with it's hard.
Gatheca, yeah, what would you do to prepare your spouse? Just, the discussion that you would have.
has given us very good pointers where we need to maybe prepare a will regardless.
Do you have a will?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But I think she was speaking to some of us.
You need to book an appointment with Rosa after this.
Yes, Rosa, yes. So we need to build the will as we go on. Even updating those next of kins. I think we realized with my wife recently that our parents were next of kins in some places. Yeah. So it's important to just go and update those places. And also talking about it, I think that is very important. Loss, not I think our African culture or something, we really don't talk about death, even with our parents, even as they age and so on. It's not a very good thing to start. That's what we believe. Yeah? To start asking them, do you have a will? Do you have this? It's like you look like what are you saying? There's more to it than, and I think even for us, that's where we have also picked it up, and we rarely talk about it. And when you raise it up, it's like suspicious. What is it? Is there something? Is there something? Because at times, because you've had places where, or incidences where someone has passed on and then people look back and, oh, and you remember he said this, and you're like, hey, I don't want to even start that because people start that and they end up here. So, but it's important. I mean, just we need to get over it and know that death is part of our lives. Going through a loss, I mean, we don't know what the day or, the hour, we need to, and I think it's important as a couple to also talk about it. We talk about it with my wife, and I think what we need to do now is proper planning. We've done most of our properties together and so on, and I think they're talking about it is what I think really is what we need to. This conversation needs to be in our families, and not fearing that it will there's a but Rosa will give us more.
Yeah. So you'll talk about the will,
Yeah.
but before you get to the will, because now you go technical there.
No, I'm not.
Just start with anything else, then just go to the will
And
finally.
the will
Yeah.
is just one of the things that
Yeah.
you do. But I think, the death conversation is difficult because who wants to just sink the mood, right? On date night, just
Yeah.
sink the mood. So in what we have done is we went right to it. We've had a death date. Right?
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh yeah. And I encourage you to do a death date. Just take the bull by the horns.
Yeah.
It's dark, I know. But we've talked about, Robert has told me what music he once played at
Wow.
his funeral. He wants
Wow.
an altar call at his funeral. He has told me he wants to be buried in a hill. I don't have a hill. I have
So
to buy
you're
a
looking
hill.
here. Look for a hill to bury him.
Looking for a hill. He's told me to not bury him in a suit.
Wow.
He's very casual.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to have light-hearted
Conversation about death.
about death, because then you can talk about, do this, don't do this. Then we've had an opportunity to talk about, how do you feel about remarrying when I have gone, right? So that the person who's left eventually feels that even though Christ has set them free to remarry if they want to, they don't feel like they need to be loyal to the
To
memory.
that who's gone. Yeah.
So we've had those kinds of conversations. So there are some light-hearted
Yeah.
conversations about I have a family member who has said he wants us to plant a baobab tree, a
Wow.
buyu, on top of his grave.
Yeah.
The question, though, is whether we should eat the mbuyus that come from that.
After. Yes.
Like, at that point, do we say he's
Okay.
bearing
He's bearing fruits.
I'm sorry.
It's alright.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
anyway, but my point is, it doesn't have to be
Talk
such a
about it.
dark conversation, because we are all going there. And for those of us who are believers, it is not a bad thing. It is the way.
Yeah, it's a
to go to be with the
transition.
Lord. It's
Yeah.
a transition. So we can talk about it. We can prepare our children. We can prepare our spouses. Some of the things I think that make life easier. A will is important, but even when we have a will, we usually can access that stuff at the earliest 6 months after you have died, because the court process. Even with
Yes.
a will, we still have to go to probate, so it takes
Time.
a while. So you want to have sort of the harder assets in a will for sure, but you want your family to have quick money to access to bury you, to pay school fees, to pay the mortgage or the rent or
The
whatever,
rent
and so on
and
and so
just
forth.
keep life going.
And life insurance tends to be useful for that because they pay out fairly quickly, but also bank accounts that can be accessed by both of
Gently.
you. Some chamas, circles, that kind of thing, where you hold savings and you set up what is called a nomination. It's another way of property to pass outside of the will system, right? So you've nominated. It's similar to the life insurances that we've talked about, or the pensions at work and that kind of thing, where you nominate somebody to take the
In
money.
case-
Those doesn't tend, when you die,
Yeah.
those doesn't tend to pay out fairly
Quickly.
quickly. Some as early as 7 days, some 2 weeks, a month, and that kind of thing. So that
Okay.
money tends to be very helpful in that intervening period when when people can life has to
Go on.
Go
Yeah.
on, as you said, the worst has happened, but
We have to live.
yeah, to be paid, and that kind of thing. And you want to leave people sort of in that place. I love what you said about making sure that your spouse genuinely can stand on their own, because it's very unfortunate to leave some, because when you incapacitate them in that way, then they're not able to care for themselves or for their children when you are gone.
When you're gone. On Takeout this week, have you had a talk to prepare each other for when you will not be physically present? How does your spouse react when faced with loss? Do you have a support system around you? On your date night this week, consider taking time to tackle one or all of these issues. Tell us how it goes. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had for this week's episode of Hashtag For Better For Worse. I pray that this episode has enriched your marriage and has given you fodder for consideration as you go about discussions around this whole issue of preparing for whenever loss will come. For really, loss is inevitable and the grief comes when least expected. And this week, we want to say a big thank you to everyone who subscribed to the channel, who've been sharing these links. Please continue to do so, but more specifically, we want to send a big shout out to everyone who's given of their finances to enable this episode's production. You also can be a blessing to many couples out there who are blessed week in, week out through the episodes of Hashtag For Better For Worse. How can you do that? First, by subscribing to this channel and sharing it far and wide. Secondly, you can also give of finances to help us continue with the production of these episodes of Hashtag For Better For Us. How can you do that? The till number that is running on your screen, you can give through that method. If you are out there and you're in need of prayers, you're going through grief or any other issue in your marriage, we would like to be of assistance. Please drop us an email, care@pichasafi.co.ke, care@pichasafi.co.ke, and we will be able to connect you to where you will get help. But meanwhile, we're praying for you and we know that your marriage will thrive. Why? Because that is what God intended for our marriages. Till next week, same time, same place, where we'll be looking at a different topic with a different couple. What will Lexie and William, Brian and Ayana will be dealing with in that particular week? My name is Fred Makori, son of Nyakundi. See you next week.
For better or for us, no matter what is thrown at us, together we will be stronger.
We'll take it a day at a time. There ain't no blueprint for this love. Namola, he'll make us stronger. I promise I am yours. From the first day, Niliapa. It's